Good evening. Oh, I can't talk already. That's bad. That's a bad sign. Good evening, board members and members of the public and staff. We are calling to order this meeting of the Oakville Public Library Board for Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. And before we get into the meeting, I'd like to read our territorial acknowledgement. The Oakville Public Library is situated on the Treaty Number 14 and Treaty Number 22 treaty lands and the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. Oakville is currently home to many different First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Regardless of where we come from, we are all interconnected to the land that we live on, the water that we use, and the air that we breathe. We are committed to a continuous learning journey and allyship. We seek to elevate Indigenous voices and lived experience to cultivate reconciliation on Oakville. Madam Committee Clerk, do we have any regrets this evening? Red means go. Looks like you're giving homage to the
we have regrets from Rebecca.
Okay, regrets from Rebecca, thank you. Members of the board, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest this evening? I am not seeing any. Okay, before we get into the minutes, I do have one quick request from Ken, our AV expert here this evening. He wants to remind everybody that in order to be heard, you must press the microphone button, which is very important because we have staff on Zoom as well as the public. And just so that you can be aware of our highly intuitive sound system, when you push the button, you wait for it to go red, and that means go. So in this case, red means go. Do not do that on the streets because that could cost you a lot of money. Okay, we have our minutes from the previous board meeting that was held on July 20th. We have both the regular meeting as well as the closed session. Can I get a motion to deal with those, please? Motion to approve would be reasonable. Bill and Celso. Any conversation or errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll look for a vote. All in favor of the adoption of the minutes, and that is carried. We do have three consent items on the agenda. 5.1 is the Oakville Public Library key board agenda items. 5.2 is the health and safety report, and 5.3 is the occupational health, safety, and workplace violence policy. Are there any separations of those items, or are you prepared to approve as circulated? Ray? I approve all three. Thank you. So there's been a motion to approve 5.1 through 5.3. Is there a seconder? Thank you very much. Andrew, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Actually, let me go back one step. Are there any separations? I forgot to ask that. Okay, so those are, all three of those are carried. We do not have a confidential consent item, although we do have a confidential discussion item, which we'll deal with after the discussion items in item 7. We're going to start out with 7.1, the 2024 Oakville Public Library operating budget. Red means go.
I'm not used to it.
Somebody cue the Jeopardy theme.
Oh, okay. Maybe up here. We'll just. Okay.
This is the pickup, and I think it was.
Okay, gotcha. So the board will remember back in July, we presented our key budget drivers report indicating key pressures that the library was under when creating our 2024 budget. At that time, we were looking at a 6.7% increase. I'm excited to say that we worked really closely with finance as well as other partners at the town, and did manage to bring our operating budget down to 4.5 as requested by the mayor. I am going to highlight, because there are things in the budget drivers report that we indicated that aren't necessarily covered here. We did go back to the manager of Glen Abbey and have a conversation about the two positions that we had originally requested, the customer information specialist, as well as the customer service technician, and decided that we could probably make do with just the CIS position. So our first step is to bring that one on and then see how that addresses some of the concerns, and if needed, that we still need the CIS, we might be able to address that in a different way at a later date. The CIS is not addressed in this budget per se. The last bullet of the key facts is that we are asking the board to approve that we fund the CIS through development for about a year and a half. The reason I'm asking to fund it through development is it has a clear start date and a clear end date, because this is a required position for the new 16-mile permanent location. So we're just looking to bring it on board about a year and a half early and looking to use our fundraising dollars to fund that position up until the new branch opens, in which case the funding moving forward will be part of that operating model for the new branch. As well as the marketing position that we brought forward in July. Joe, Trish, and I had a number of different conversations about that, and we believe we can fill that through attrition early in 2024. So that's the way we're looking to approach that. It's still a very much a needed position, but we feel relatively confident that we'll be able to fill that early in 2024 just through attrition. So that's the way we'd like to approach that. That then enables us to have the $100,000 towards collections placed into the operating budget. I remember back in July, we had talked about that might be an option for fundraising. I feel it's really important to have it as part of the operating budget because that allows us to grow it year over year. When we pull it out of fundraising, it's one-offs. So the goal being that we can put $100,000 in this year, next year, hopefully we can match it or at least continue to grow that over time to meet the needs that we see. So anyway, that is the highlights of where we are for the operating budget, but I'm very happy to take questions. And Belinda and both Dalabar are here as well. Correct, right, so yeah, so we normally bring this one for feedback and then we incorporate any changes and then bring it for approval back in September. I do see Colleen's waving her hand.
For the purposes of the public, the question that was posed could not be heard remotely.
Yes, I know. I failed on my own advice. So my question was, it wasn't really a question, it was more of a clarification that Tara had suggested that there was a request that the board will be asked to make a decision about the reallocation of some staffing dollars, and I just wanted to note that the agenda today is for information only, and that would come at a future meeting, and Tara confirmed that. Did you have anything else, Colleen, that you wanted to add?
Your audio is a little bit off.
Oh, I can't help that. Okay, members of the board, I'll come back to you. Any questions on the budget, on the operating budget? Yes, Ray.
Thank you, Chair. Just the question on the recommendation for the Glen Abbey Customer Service Specialist position to 2025. So are we gapping that over a 24-25 for full payment in that position?
It would definitely be the full of 2024, and it would be 2025 up until the opening of the new 16-mile branch, which we do not currently have an exact timeline for. We're still aiming for Q1, Q2 of 2025, so it would bridge to then.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further?
Yeah, thank you, Tara. I'm sorry, could you go over again the suggestion that you'd replace one of the positions through, add a position through attrition, because I'm having difficulty understanding how that's going to give us a net improvement in service.
So it's not necessarily it's not a decrease in service. So we do have a number of positions. We've been doing some restructuring in collections that we've been talking about, as well as some other different positions. And we feel that they would be, there's a number of positions that might vacate, we expect will vacate in early 2024, that will allow us to prioritize the marketing position. We feel that that's a significant lack based on our strategic goals and a number of other initiatives, so that's our priority. So we want to get that in place, and then we'll have a better understanding of how, if that's created gaps, how we might be able to address those.
Okay, that clears it up for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Colleen, is my audio better now? Okay, thank you. Ken just replaced my microphone. Celso, you're up.
Yeah.
All right, so it sounds like you're from 6.7% down to 4.5 by tightening the belt a little bit on cutting a couple of positions that may or may not be necessary, or finding creative ways to fund it from some other sources, right?
Yes.
So I just want to propose something else for consideration. So the budget, the 4.5 is from 2023 budget to 2024.
It's the annual year of 2024, yeah, January 1st to December 31st, yes.
Budget for this year.
Yes,
Where a lot of it is running in the budget.
yes,
The last report we got was from May, 8.2% under the budget.
right,
And that's largely because of personnel.
right.
Vacancy.
Mhm.
So presumably you're planning for that.
Correct,
Hopefully by the end of the year you'll have full staff.
yes.
But your turnover rate is 7%. So you have lost a bunch of people as well,
Right,
based on history.
yes,
But you always have a certain vacancy rate.
yes.
Every percent of your vacancy rate is worth $92,000. So it's certain that you're going to run with a 2 or 3% vacancy. You may be able to fund those 3 positions just out of your regular budget.
It is. Our goal every year is not to run a surplus. It's to come as close to our budget as possible because our budget is our promise to our customers that we're going to deliver on services. We do budget for some level of gapping, which is I think what you're speaking to. And we have had numerous conversations with finance about increasing that. Some of the challenges we faced as this year has been particularly challenging. We have a number of high-level positions. The Director of Customer Experience has been vacant, will likely be vacant almost at the end of the year. There's a large number that were vacant in Joe's collections. So this is something we want to look at for 2024, is budgeting gapping more aggressively within our budget to create what you're talking about. I'm just not sure I'm comfortable necessarily guaranteeing that for this year, just because of the uncertainty of where we are with the gapping in 2023. And I do know that we are tracking, as we do, our retention, and so how can we use that, as you pointed out, that 7%, to actually figure out what an appropriate gapping level is? Right now, we budget about $100,000. I suspect it could be significantly higher than that. But again, I think that's what we want to do in 2024, so I'd be hesitant to put a guaranteed position, permanent position in place based on that. We have been using the gapping to create contract positions because we feel more comfortable with those. But we are hoping that this will actually give us in 2024, as I said, incorporate that into the budget to do exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Idea here is you can use that vacancy rate to your own
Yes.
benefit and manage it based on what you have. Right?
Yep.
It's probably
And helps us manage the surplus every year because we are using it. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Next. Yeah.
But most capital projects have an operating cost. Operating costs of capital projects that are budgeted for next year included in the formula.
So you will notice that there is some, where is it in here? There is the operating impact from capital vehicle is in here. That's actually from the capital of the purchase of the new vehicle and mostly speaks to maintenance through roads and works. Nothing is in here for operating costs. Normally, operating costs from capital come after the capital project is in place. So that's the way we do it. So we do have staffing positions and other positions incorporated into our capital projects. And then if we determine that there is operating impacts to that, then it gets put in the operating year it comes into effect. So for example, 16 Mile, the permanent branch, we're still in the process of that capital budget, but we have a draft operating budget which will come forward in 2025 for the operation of that facility. So there are no known impacts right now for operating for 2024.
Yeah, just for clarity's sake and understanding, and I know Colleen's online here, that's always been a challenge when you put in operating into capital, and what it does is force you the following year or the year after that you're moving it out of capital into operating, and it's an impact on your operating budget. So we just want to be, for transparency, is when you're having capital projects, there is a portion of hiring staff in those capital projects. Is that correct?
Depends on the project, but we have had instances where we have put staff in, normally it's for the length of the capital project. For example, if we move forward with the Downtown Cultural Hub, the new Central Library, which Colleen will speak about as part of the capital, we've requested that a full-time staff be part of the capital to manage the project on behalf of the library for the length of the project. So there is a staff person attached to that capital, but the idea isn't that they then move to operating, it's that the staffing to the project is tied to the project itself, and that we target operating in a different way.
Colleen would like to take a bite at this as well. Colleen?
Just to provide a little bit of clarity, because I could see us getting the potential for confusion. So staff can be paid for out of capital when they're contributing directly to the project. However, when we're talking about operating impact, it's about once the building is up and operational, and then we are putting staff into the building that will run our programs and services. That's what we mean by operating impact. Just for clarity around terminology. So it's two very distinct categories. So I think Councillor Chisholm was speaking to the operating, like the longer term. Is that correct, Councillor?
That's correct, Colleen. Usually what happens in practice is when positions are in capital, it comes to a point where you're kind of not forced, not the word I'm looking for, forced, but assurances that those positions are still there and they have to go into operating. So it does have an impact on your budget, say, next year or the year after. So I just don't anticipate, because the dollars don't move once the dollars are finishing capital. I would assume that you're going to have to put money, making sure we have enough money in the budget for operating for those positions in the future. That's all I'm saying. So we don't get caught.
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct. So what Tara's requesting as part of the Downtown Cultural Hub is that they have a business lead that provides input on behalf of the library to the project team that's actually building the library downtown. So they would speak to the functionality of space, they would speak to that they need certain types of rooms and how those rooms need to function, as an example, how these rooms need to be connected or networked to other spaces that are perhaps remote. So those kinds of things. That's the kind of work that a business lead would do on a project like that. Separately, Tara, once the building is open, she will be asking for funding for a full staff complement that will run the library over the longer term.
And
If that makes any sense.
we forecast those operating needs similar to
Yes.
how we forecast the capital. So there is an operating forecast related to some of those. So yes, finance is aware.
Thank you for the clarity.
Thanks, Ray. Next up is Andrew.
Thanks. So I realized, and I think we touched on this briefly at the last meeting, but the personnel cost is the largest single component of the increase. It's over 50% of the increase as the budget increase stands right now, but we don't have a contract in place yet.
No, our contract expires the end of this year. Some of that is, the way our contract works is that individuals move up step every 2 years. So next year, there is a chunk that move up a step, so that incorporates that, because that's always the case, irregardless. But in terms of their wage increase, no, we've worked with finance to create what we think is a solid estimate, and that's what's incorporated in here.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd love to be able to lock this in, quite honestly, but I don't think they'll let us do that quite so easily. So ultimately, we'll likely have to make adjustments in 2024 to accommodate any potential increase to salaries above and beyond what's contemplated here.
As part of the negotiation process, the board would be involved, yes.
Okay.
We don't want to go too far down that, because that would normally be an item that we talk about in confidential session in terms of the union negotiations, but.
No, I'm not proposing that we
Yeah.
negotiate. I'm just, looking at this.
Yeah, typically there's a placeholder there that is based on a best guess estimate, based on our finance staff and experience that they will put in, and it will be adjusted whether through gapping or whatever else in year, depending on what the needs happen to be.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. I have any further first-time speakers? Nope. I have two quick questions. One is with respect to the, I know this is a fairly small piece, but I'm still curious about it. The fines and fees, you're proposing an increase of 3% for fees for use of room bookings. It's always my view that we are really under market rate on our room bookings. Is there any opportunity to increase that revenue through increased rate, increased promotion? Because I also noticed there's a slow uptake. Could we do more to? You having a problem with your mic?
No, I think, I'm confused that it's red.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna lie.
Red means go. Red means go. Is there a way to, like, either, is there an opportunity to increase that rate more to make it more market comparable? Or is there a way to undertake an aggressive campaign to try to increase bookings? Because I noticed that there's been a slow uptake since the pandemic. And even before that, I think we didn't have people beating down our door. Is there more opportunity here that we may not be exploiting?
I think there's definitely an opportunity to promote it. We are taking a look at, we only just added back in the majority of our meeting rooms back into the booking software. We weren't allowing bookings in a significant number of them. We were focusing on some of the central spaces, which, to be frank, are not ideal spaces. So now that we've added the rest of them in, we can definitely look at doing a market target. I'm always hesitant to increase them because we serve a very particular role in the community for meeting spaces. Our meeting spaces are also not, they don't come with high levels of technology, they don't come with support, they're just meeting spaces. And I think there are a number of community groups and individuals in the community that need our types of meeting rooms. For example, we did have an individual who wanted to meet his neighbors, and so he came in and wanted to book it, and I think we're at a price point where he could do that as an individual versus a corporation or a business having to have the funds to do it. So I would recommend that we focus on increasing the visibility of our meeting spaces and then revisit this next year.
Yeah, I think that, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm the mean guy here, wanting to jack up the rates on neighbors wanting to meet, but I think that there's an opportunity to increase revenue here, whether it's either through increase in fees or more active promotion of the fact that these spaces are available, because I've mentioned to a few people that, I'm in the business of providing space to a lesser extent. And I often will tell people, talk to the library, because I don't have tiny meeting spaces, that would be ideal for what you, and I don't know if it ever turns into business, but I think that there's an opportunity. I think there's a lack of awareness that these spaces are even available, frankly.
Good, we can do that.
Ray, you had a question? Oh, sorry, I had one more. I apologize, Ray. Again, because this is such a well-done budget, I've only got a few minor things to pick at. The second one is, I'm just curious, how on earth are we seeing a decrease in utility costs?
So a lot of that is just work to the great work that the town's doing on just looking at utilities as a whole. There's a number of new staff members whose job it is to look at utilities. Some of that is just realigning our branches. For example, Belinda did an awesome job kind of looking at, particularly our shared spaces and comparing what we were paying versus our standalone, and asked a lot of questions about why our Iroquois Ridge branch was spending $15,000 more on utilities than Woodside as a standalone. So in partnership with Rec and Culture, just trying to figure out how we can align for that we're paying our share a little bit better. So that's the result of some of those different aspects. We are also seeing just some decreases. Central is one where it was super high for a really long time, and it took them a while to sort that out. Now they feel more confident about where it is. We've been decreasing it a little bit every year, but this year they feel much more confident in where they're at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's impressive. I wonder if this could be like a board member perk, that we have this person come and tell us how to do this at home.
Yeah.
Because my numbers go up every year, so yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I will move on to the next speaker, who is, I believe it's Ray, wants to speak again. It's green, that means stop. Mars is red.
Oh, there.
Went red. He was afraid of me. Budget question. Can we get more mics?
Budget, and it just goes on Jeff's
We can't hear Councillor Chisholm's microphone at all remotely.
Colleen, is there a new sound system in the budget for 2024?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can look into it.
I think we should.
At least the microphones.
Yeah.
Testing, oh, there we go.
There we go.
Thank you. Now, with respect to the room rentals, and just not to repeat myself, but I'm going to, is that it is cumbersome and it is administratively, can be a costly venture to be into it. And just a quick question, is the room rentals a core business of the library?
I would say that room rental isn't a core business. We've streamlined it quite significantly. We have a piece of software where people can go on and book and do everything themselves. It just needs to be approved on the back end by staff, which
Okay.
has streamlined that significantly. But it's low revenue. I think it
Aha.
serves a purpose.
Sorry to interject, and I don't want to take
Yeah.
the committee's time up, but that's the question. What is the revenue we're bringing in this against the overall operating budget?
It's not very large. I don't
Okay.
know what it is offhand. I don't know if Belinda knows offhand. Probably not. I feel like it's a quiz. But it's a small percentage.
Okay, so I would just want to caution the amount of input versus output with respect to the room rentals. I agree with Jeff with respect to maybe promoting a little bit better, but we're not in the banquet business. We're not in the recreation business. These are just square footage rooms to be used for maybe some small meetings and so forth. So in relation to looking at the revenues and saying how much we put into it is going to be a factor. So I just a word of caution on that and how far we go with that.
No, understood.
Thank- This is green. Oh, test.
Okay, any further speakers to this matter? Andrew, did you? Okay, seeing nothing else, I will look for motion to receive this item because it's only receipt, and we'll see the actual recommendation next month. Ray, thank you. Seconded by? Thank you also. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, let's move on to our capital budget, and Tara.
Yeah, so the 2024 capital budget has 8 projects that we are putting forward. The budget drivers didn't incorporate 8 because a number of them existed within our 10-year forecast, but are bringing them forward. So just to give you some context for some of them, there are a number of them that are, for lack of a better term, annual capital budgets that we bring forward every year. The OPL website, that is one. We follow the same model as the town and just putting $30,000 every year just to keep our website up to date, addresses any kind of updates that need to be or tweaks. The library capital replacement cost, that sits in our budget but is managed by FCM, just managing any kind of facility need across all of our different branches. Library furniture and equipment, that is an annual budget that we have where we purchase new furniture as needed, and different programming equipment, almost like a bit of an asset management, so allows us to replace furniture on an ad hoc basis. Being a public space, as you can imagine, furniture is well used, so being able to make those adjustments through that budget. I'll also flag that our current strategic plan is up at the end of 2024, so there is a budget to start that process next year. So early in 2024, I'll be coming to the board to have a conversation about what type of strategic plan you will be thinking of, whether or not you want an update or whether or not you want a ground-up plan. It is budgeted as a ground-up plan, but those will be discussions that we'll have in early 2024 that we can get that off the ground. I also wanted to flag the Woodside renovation. The board will notice that even though I've mentioned it, the Central Library is not listed on here, and Colleen's going to speak to that in a minute. But I just want to highlight that the Woodside renovation, when we put this on the budget last year, we put it in both an upper floor and a lower floor, a separation. The idea being that we could move forward with one, if not, they didn't have to be tied together. We could kind of do them separately. However, with the potential for a new central library, we have to shift how we've thought of Woodside, because I think there's a great opportunity with that renovation to reallocate space from corporate services that exist within Central to the Woodside renovation. So they are currently tied together a little bit. The money for 2024, between the upstairs and the downstairs, would definitely fund what we need in terms of detailed design, but the build would actually, that funding would come in 2025 and may shift depending on the result of Central Library. So I'm going to pass it over to Colleen really quickly, and then it'll come back, and then I'm going to have Joe speak to the digitization project options for you. But Colleen?
Thank you, Tara. So I'm very pleased to report that at the upcoming budget meeting of September 6th, unfortunately, I will not be in attendance because I will be out of the country, but I am very excited about this initiative. We are going to be bringing forward a budget request for the Downtown Cultural Hub. We will be requesting $6 million in total for 2024, of which $4.2 million will be dedicated to the detailed design and public consultation work to be done around future programming for the Central Library. As all of you are aware, the Central Library has been struggling, particularly over the last 12 months, with ongoing flooding through several floors. We had a particularly bad flood. We are still struggling with the HVAC. We've had a smaller flood again, and based on facility team's recommendations, we really feel that the building is nearing its end of life much sooner than what was originally anticipated. In light of that, the revitalization of the Central Library has been made a top priority. So the intent is to recommend that the Central Library be relocated to the post office building that's downtown. We had looked at it back in 2015 and 16 for possible feasibility of moving it there. As you know, it's a heritage building. However, we're only required to retain the front facade, thank heavens. But the back can be completely blown out in the best possible way, and we can put large-scale windows in there to take advantage of the extraordinary views of the 16-mile creek. For any of you who've had the privilege of looking up there, that area through the seasons, it's absolutely gorgeous, and it will turn the library into a true destination. So our intent is to start work, assuming approval from council. Our senior staff at the town have been meeting with all of the ward councillors. I think we've met, with Councillor Knoll and Chisholm already. We will be finished that consultation tomorrow, but we are anticipating that we will have unanimous support for moving forward on the library. The level of enthusiasm and excitement from all of our ward councillors with respect to that relocation, what the possibilities might be, is absolutely fabulous, and we can't thank our members of council enough for that level of support and enthusiasm. So that will be moving forward for budget consideration on the 6th, and then assuming that council endorses that request, it will move through the process, and we will be anticipating that the mayor will be making a recommendation to approve as part of his budget. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of this. Is very preliminary stages. Other than the location, there has been no decisions made on what the design would look like. Obviously, we're going to engage the OPL board extensively, and I'm looking forward to your enthusiasm and your wonderful ideas and your commitment to innovation. We really want this building to be a landmark. And one of the things that has been bandied about is the possibility of putting some sort of rooftop amenity on the building that could be used as an event space, as an example, to also take advantage of those extraordinary views. Because as you know, modern libraries usually have an outdoor component in terms of design. Because the site is relatively small, we would be looking at going up and out for our outdoor amenity piece. So, as I said, very, very early, no detailed design has been done at all. We will certainly be putting together a very extensive public consultation plan to work with our customers that frequent the Central Library. This is a very engaged group of individuals. We worked with them very closely during the last round of public consultation, and we will want them to be heavily involved throughout the planning of the transition so that the whole community is extremely excited about where we're going with the Central Library.
Thanks, Colleen.
Is there any questions? There's the silence. I don't know if you're all so excited that
We're
you're
so excited, we're
speechless or.
speechless. Oh, no, there we go.
Just a
Tara's
good laugh.
microphone was not working.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, so the budget that Colleen is mentioning is not currently, as you can see in here. After September 6th, we'll have a better sense of how to move forward, and then you'll likely see it come in for approval from the library board perspective as part of the September board meeting. So I'm going to now pass it over to Joe to go over the options for digitization.
Maybe.
So in the appendix, I put together about a 4-page report on the digitization and a few different options. So the team, since we last spoke about digitization, I believe it was in March where we went over the potential to fundraise over the years to potentially gather the funds to do it. And it was recommended through Councillor Chisholm that we put this forward as a capital project with the town. So you see it within the budget and a bit of the background and a few potential solutions for the project. Now, the team has worked on this for about a couple months to put together this plan. Now, it is a very, very large project in terms of, I mean, not just the handling of hundreds of thousands of old documentations, but think about the indexing, the cataloging, being able to host and these newspapers, putting them in a usable database and kind of CMS where customers can search and bring these up. So it is a very, very large project. We went over through, several different vendors, 7 different options. We provided the 2 best alternatives that we found and provided a recommendation on how we believe we should proceed in that matter. Now, the recommendation which we presented essentially entails the digitization of all the documents, but also kind of a revitalization of our current platform to be able to accommodate all of these documents and make it in a searchable platform, not just within this new structure, but also within the OPL website. So essentially creating an entire kind of Oakville history portal for anyone in Oakville to access. So I open it up to the board for any specific questions on this project.
Ray.
Them all.
Oh, one minute.
I got one. It's working.
Can you shut the other one off just so we're not
Yeah. Oh, this one's on too. Oh, geez. So much fun.
crossing the streams?
Thank you very much. Now, in my own defense, reading this is, how I say, comprehensively, I didn't understand it that well because you're using language that I don't use on a regular basis. So could you just tell me the difference in those 2 options? Why we're going to this one compared to the other one in simplistic terms?
So, okay, so again, this project includes many different phases. So picture the handling, the digitization, like we're talking about 300,000 to 400,000 pages of scanning, and not just scanning, but then you have to index them, catalog them, so be able to pick up specific flags and make them searchable, put that in a repository, get the repository, and then be able to make it in a user-friendly interface. Like there's many different facets that would need to happen to bring this to life. The 2 recommendations are essentially, digitization is pretty much digitization. They scan. Where things kind of change is option number 2 is essentially upgrading what we currently have. So we have a partner right now that hosts, I mean, we're talking about, let's call it 10,000 articles on it. If you look at it, it looks like a website built 20 years ago. It's not accessible, it's not user friendly, it's not mobile friendly. So taking that platform, working with them, and updating it into a state that is acceptable for this size of project.
So essentially, one is a brand-new portal from scratch. Yeah, and then the other one is just building on what we have. Yeah.
Jeez, there's one. Where? Oh, I got one here, Roger. Jeez, it's bingo. So really what we're saying here, a used vehicle versus a new vehicle. The used vehicle is being upgraded by good mechanics and technicians. So the question has to be, whoever's doing it, they can support this in its entirety?
We believe so, yes.
We believe so.
We can't officially, until we go to RFP and get it done, we can't officially get the solid, because when we go to RFP, it will be based on whoever, so these are just recommendations right now. The project is over the threshold that we would need to go to just award a single serve vendor. So assuming that the RFP chooses that specific vendor, we would be looking at that price, and we believe that they would be.
We consulted with them, and they're
Okay.
confident.
So the scope of work will be in the RFP, so somebody can match that scope of work and you go through the process. Okay, thank you. That helps.
Thank you. Meredith? Oh, wow, first time.
I do remember when we first tabled this idea, there was some comments across the board about potentially partnering with local historical societies. And I was wondering if you explored any of those local partnerships and explored even the potential of cost sharing?
Yeah, so everyone is very willing to help out, but in terms of funding, not so much. So in terms of, I mean, will we have their input? Will we have, I mean, definitely work in collaboration with someone? Absolutely. In terms of funding, it came up with
The way we're framing it is, this is the full cost, because we need funding for the full cost, but we would actively fundraise and leverage our partners in order to do that, to offset. So this is the cost of the project. What we end up paying the town and the library is still questionable, because we will aim to fundraise. And our historical societies are absolutely some of the ones that would help us put us in contact with the right people to have these conversations with, who have a real passion for history in Oakville.
Thanks, Meredith. Anything further? Okay. Andrew?
I'm just wondering if you've connected with any tech companies like Google or Facebook to see if they'd support this initiative.
not Google or Facebook. Other tech companies, yes, in terms of building out that interface and connecting to the repository and all that stuff, yeah. In terms of the big ones,
My serious question. I think, leveraging this as a fundraising opportunity is absolutely the right way to go. I think this brings a lot of, it brings a sense of pride with it. It's, people are proud of Oakville, they like where they live. I think this is a huge, not just for the library, but for, for the region and for the town as a whole. And I'd be shocked, quite honestly, if we couldn't fund this 100% through donations, ultimately.
And it's also grants. So when I say fundraising, we'd also look at not just individuals, but grant opportunities. There are significant grants for historical and digitization that are available out there. So we would continue to explore those too.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Further? Ray? Oh, I'm sorry, Kelso, you had your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay, so no, you're a first-time speaker, so you're next, and then Ray.
Yeah.
Here. No,
Because I would recommendation number 2. Discussion. I would move.
So if I understood, sorry, am I cutting off? Am I cutting off? No.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Let me
So-
let me chair.
Sorry. If I understood your report correctly, option 2 has 3 added benefits beyond what you just talked about. It also upgrades the existing portal, so whatever we have there is going to get a new facelift. Number 2, it's going to be a seamless experience for the user, knowing that it's their library user and they get everything they get from the library, and now they get access to all of this new content. Unlike the option 1, where it would be 2 different portals. And benefit number 3 is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So why would we not do option 2? Tell me if I'm missing something, I guess is my question.
I asked Joe to look at the other option because I wanted to know, right now, we're building on our existing database. And it really works well for newspapers. But at the time we were looking at that, we weren't sure if it could accommodate photos or other types of historical materials that we may collect over time. We've been getting more yearbooks have been coming in. So, we're looking to digitize the newspapers, but there may be other different projects. So when Joe went out to investigate it, I had him look at, okay, what can we do with our existing system? But if we had to start from scratch, what would that look like? Because I think sometimes if you're just trying to build on top of your existing, you limit your mindset a little bit. So that's really where the concept was between looking at, let's start from scratch, what does that look like and what does that cost? And then can our current system actually accommodate and grow with what we need it to grow? But as you point out, it did turn out that our existing system is significantly cheaper, and we expect that they can do what we need them to do.
Joe, did you have anything further to add?
No, I mean, Tara covered it pretty well. It's also timing. It's saved a few months as well. So we're not more benefit of.
There you go. Don't shut off your microphone. Oh, it just went off on its own. We had a connection, we might as well try to keep it. It could be. Ray, do you have a mic?
Yeah, I think I got one.
Oh my gosh, you do.
So for
Why
clear.
are you moving it?
I got a microphone anyways. So we're clear here. You put 2 options on the. Oh, thank you. It's in stereo. So the options are, but you're recommending option number 2. So for speed's sake here, I'm moving recommendation number 2 to be approved by the board.
Thanks, Ray. Before we get to seconder, I just wanted to ask a couple questions. So first of all, have we explored any academic connection? You don't have a microphone that works again, do you? So I'll just clarify my question. Have we looked at any academic opportunities in terms of universities or colleges that might be interested in participating in this to reduce costs? Because I know that, library science programs, other research projects at universities, anybody interested in that?
So we haven't yet. At first we were in talks because we also, as part of this local history portal, we hope to come together. We originally talked with U of T Mississauga and we had the Double Win project, which is like the indigenous history. So for this exact portion, not yet. It was a matter over the last few months, we were building what exactly the requirements would be, coming up with that final amount. And now again, this is the full amount of the cost. The portions of that go towards fundraising, that's town funded, looking for partners, looking for big sponsors. Those are all things that are all available and all on the table. It's just this right now we're presenting are more or less the rough costs to bring this to life over the next 2-3 years.
Okay, makes sense. So my next 2 comments will just be advisory then, because the answer will be the same. One is, don't overlook individual donors. There are a lot of families in town that would probably love to be part of this. The second one was, historical societies have very little money. Generally speaking, all 3 of them are trying to maintain their buildings and don't have a ton of dough, but they are connected. You're right, that they could definitely put you in touch with groups that do have money. The service clubs all have money, and they continually raise money, so they're a good source. And don't forget corporate as well. These are all things you probably already know, so
Sure.
I just wanted to use the microphone while it's alive. Okay, I'm going to ask one more time for, and potentially even I know Torstar has no money, but they do own Metroland, and a lot of those documents are Metroland. In fact, that's where we found them when they were moving. They had to move them out of the Metroland building. I don't know whether they have any money to throw into it or not for Goodwill, but it's a possibility as well.
Yep.
Any further questions on this?
I have a question for Tara regarding capital. Question for Tara regarding capital budget? Sorry.
Sure, we can move into that. I think we just finished digitization, so now we're moving to capital. Do you want to be on the list for that?
Don't we have to vote on that recommendation first?
I believe it'll be part of the overall motion. Will it be overall? Yeah, because this is one item, so it'll be a receipt and an approval of item number 2. That'll be the motion.
And I will say option 2 is the cost that's included in the current budget.
Better.
Yep.
So presumably last year, there was a 10-year capital
Correct.
budget forecast, right? How does the 6 million that we're asking for in 2024 compare to what it was last year? Is it a lot higher?
You're asking what our capital budget was for 2023?
No. So we have a 10-year forecast now,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
We have a number for 2025, 26,
Yep.
and so on and so forth. So last year, there would have been a number for 2024.
Correct.
Maybe you don't remember what it was. I'm just wondering if the 6 million we're asking for right now is significantly higher than what it was a
No.
year ago, and if so, sorry.
Sorry.
And if so, if that's subject to the same limitation, 4.5% limitations that we have for the rest of the budget.
So the only new addition to this from the 2023 submission as part of the forecast, now it gets approved as part of the 2024, but in the 2023 for 2024, all of these were included except for the digitization. So the digitization is the only new
Variance.
project that's added this year. So then the board will have to decide how that goes forward, and then it'll get taken through the entire budget process, which is why there is, I think, in keynotes that the board can approve this. It still needs to make it through council and the mayor as part of that process. So it's not significantly higher. Like I said, it's only that digitization piece. The rest of that was included as part of the 2023 forecast for 2024.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Meredith, you're next. I hope. There we go. Wow, you're lucky tonight. Okay. And then Rod.
Just looking for some clarification about the first item, which is the website maintenance and improvements. And so I wasn't quite clear how, maintenance was a capital rather than operating, and I was wondering if you could also elaborate on what the improvements are.
Well, we follow the same model as the town, which is they put capital towards their website annually in order to support it. We have whitelisted vendors that we use. So it's not day-to-day maintenance. That's managed internally through ITS and the library's internal tech team. It's maintenance in terms of Microsoft Azure, like our search engine, and tweaking that. And okay, we introduced these new kind of pieces, so we need to go back out to the vendor and have those improvements kind of incorporated in. That's been a lot of what we've done this year, has been search tweaking and search functions, as well as updates to our forms and a couple other pieces. So that's what that money is used for on an annual basis.
And I'm not sure if I was reading it correctly, but I just saw that expense just for this year, but not further years. So is this sort of the end of an amortization?
No, I'll talk to Belinda about it. Normally, we had asked that it's every year in the 10-year forecast, and then we do have it in, because even a website has an end of life, like a building, and where that is. So that would be as part of the 10-year forecast. That okay, at what point do you need to go back out and do a major renovation or a rebuild? And this would, but the idea being that the $30,000 every year keeps it really functional, so that rebuild is way in the future. Potentially, the internet may not exist. It's all in our brain by that point. You know what I mean? Sorry.
Okay, is that, okay, Rod, you're up next. Davis, did you want to add?
Okay, it seems to be working. As a new board member, this is probably a totally rookie question, but the Palermo and Trafalgar central branches are in this 10-year budget. So I take it they are approved.
So the 10-year forecast is our plan. Reality doesn't always follow our plan. Things shift. The 16 Mile branch is a great version of that. It had 3 or 4 different years. It was shifting, it was in, and then it was pushed out, and then it came back. So we base it on our master plan, which is in progress right now. And so those dates are roughly where they've targeted as per the last master plan that we did. When we get the updated master plan, those may shift again. And then in the end, it comes down to funding. So we aim to do it. You'll see that we'll purchase land, because I think the land purchase for Trafalgar North is also in for 2024. But we're not necessarily looking to build for a little bit further out. Same with Palermo. That could shift a dozen times, to be completely honest.
Thank you. And 16 Mile Creek's not on here. Is that because it's part of a town multiplex, or is there some other reason why it's not here?
So there is, this is starting from 2024. The 16 Mile is already in progress, so those capital budgets are from 2022 and 2023. The big build is actually doesn't sit in our budget because it's a combo with rec, so it's actually in rec's budget. However, we do have a line for collection and equipment and furniture, but that was in the 2023 budget. Because again, it was supposed to open in 2024, so we would have had to start purchasing the collection a year in advance. Now that it's only opening in 2025, it's given us a little bit of a buffer, so we haven't actually started to do that yet, but we plan to do that shortly.
If centrally approved by council in September, will we be seeing an update on this for October, or anything?
It would be in September, because the board would need to approve the budgets in September. So you would see in 2024, if I remember the number right, I think Colleen said roughly $4 million would go in for 2024. So you would see that reflected.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rod. Avis, you're up next? Maybe?
So, forgive me, I'm an accountant.
Yep.
So just question regarding the library strategic plan item, like what is the nature of those costs? I'm also surprised that it's considered capital.
Yeah, we've always traditionally done it capital, but it's consulting costs primarily.
Consulting.
As well as consulting costs with the board, with public consultation. It also, if we hire an agency to do the booklet or any kind of paraphernalia that comes out of that, it's really the cost to develop and produce the strategic plan. So it's a standalone project is how it's viewed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew?
Check one.
Yep, you're good.
So 2 things. First is to respond to Celsa, who was asking about last year's forecast for the 2024. So it's largely in line. So it came in at 5.4 million against what's now 6.0. The largest single change there is the digitization at 436K, and then some increases to the main and basement renovations at Woodside. So it's in line with those new items, basically. Yeah, no problem. The second thing is a question about and I don't know if Colleen's the best person to answer this, but the post office. So is that a town-owned site?
Correct.
It's not a Canada Post, okay. And I'm curious about the heritage designation.
You and me both. It is, my understanding is it's a limestone facade, and that's what makes it a heritage. The building was 1953, if I remember correctly.
Right.
But it relates to the limestone that makes up the facade is where the heritage comes into play.
Gotcha, okay.
You'll find a lot of old Dominion federal government buildings that are basically preserved, their facades, and there's often things behind them throughout Canada.
Right.
There's lots of examples.
I saw a beautiful facade on front of a former Dominion of Canada building in St. John's. It's a Dollarama now.
Amazing. Back when $1 could get you something.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I was just curious. I eyeballed on like a maps application. It looks like the footprint's similar to Central or a bit bigger even, so.
Yeah, it is a smaller space currently. I think it's around 30,000 usable square feet. The basement is a challenge, but again, the FCM's really exploring what our options are with that.
Right.
The building does need if not a complete demolish, a full retrofit. But I'm excited. I think it's a great location. I think there's some areas that we could take some amazing advantages of, and I'm really excited about it.
Okay, I look forward to more updates. Thank you.
Thanks. Ray?
You don't have a mic.
What did you want to say? And I can just say it and I'll convey it. Oh. Thank you. Okay, anything further on the capital budget? Bill? Here.
I was just wondering. The capital budget, like yearly, and almost had two of them going, the increases and what have you. I mean, we know how the operating budget works. You know, we're shooting for a particular increase. So what about the capital budget? Just to clarify, how does that work? I mean, who kind of sets increases, and how does the whole process work?
I'm actually going to pass that over to either Dalabar or Colleen. The library just identifies its needs, capital projects, and then we submit it, and it goes in the pile with the rest.
Okay.
And then it is really through town processes and council budget processes that things get determined. But I'm not sure if either Colleen or Dalabar are interested in adding in more detail about what that process looks like from the town side. Or neither of them want to talk.
So I will start, and then I'm going to ask Dalabar to go into a little more detail around the broader piece. What our capital program is informed by is a series of master plans and also our asset management plan. So from an asset management piece, all of our assets are assessed every year for level of condition. And it's determined which of our assets are either at end of life or in a condition that would require some sort of state of good repair or full retrofit. So we normally start with that. Then we also have a series of master plans. So the one that is most applicable to the library is the Parks Recreation Library Master Plan, which we're currently in process of developing for the next 5 years. But also we have master plans for fire, so all of the fire stations, coverage, type of equipment that we need to buy based on how our built form has evolved over the last 5 years, type of training and resourcing that we're going to need over the next 5 years and beyond, and also the transportation master plan as well. Municipal enforcement also comes forward with a master plan, and we have other things like parking master plans that come forward periodically. So all of those master plans look at the community need, they look at changing demographic, and where applicable, they look at evolving built form. So for example, an accelerated affordable housing movement will have a very drastic effect on what recommendations come out for master plans in terms of how we need to provide resources and assets in the community. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it over to Dalabar to speak to the technical developing of the capital program, but those are the plans that inform our capital program.
Thanks, Colleen, and good evening, everyone, and apologies that my video is not working right now. So I think Colleen did a great job explaining that. The only thing I suppose to add to it is we have 3 different types of capital project classifications. One is infrastructure renewal, and those types of projects, as Colleen stated, those are based on our asset management framework and the work that the asset management team does. The other classification type is growth projects, which are informed by the DC study. And then the third category would be classification that we call program initiatives. These are neither infrastructure renewal type items, they're neither growth projects. So again, the title is program initiatives, and those types of projects are put forward by various programs, and then they go to ELT for review, and then of course on to council for review and final approval.
Wow, that's quite amazing. So we make recommendations and then it just goes way up the ladder all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I work really closely with both Colleen and finance to make sure that we're not asking for things that are completely out
Right.
of alignment.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I make the case, and then it comes to the board for approval,
Right.
which carries weight, that then goes forward, and then having our council representatives on the board also assists with library projects and where they fit within
Right,
the
right.
broader town.
Oh, that's great. Thanks very much, Colleen, and everybody. On this thing, that's something. Oh, you want that? Oh, jeez, sorry.
Okay, anything further on this matter? I do have a question or two. Okay, so, my chance. Why do we do strategic plan every 2 years?
It's every 3, and remember we did it, normally it's every 4,
Yeah.
but we did shortened one post-COVID, because we were basically focusing on post-COVID recovery. I do think the current strategic plan stands really well.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
There's also a new board in place, though, so I think at the beginning of the year, we should have a conversation about whether it's just an update. We want to take into reflect that this was a lot about focusing on how we could help the community recover. I think that still has a place, but also how do we continue to grow into the future? But I think that's something we can talk about in the new year.
So, I know there was a
Yeah.
component of recovery.
Yep.
I think we covered a fairly comprehensive piece of work when it comes to the strat plan for the future of the library, notwithstanding COVID. And I'm wondering, instead of assuming that we're going to do this, could we have that conversation determine, because you said whether we do a full plan or a refresh, maybe we don't need one at all.
Yep.
Maybe circulate, and that's a bit of a savings of money that could be used for some other purpose. Because I'm super proud, actually, of the last strat plan we did. It's probably the best one we've ever done.
No, it is. And I don't disagree, and I think we just would move it further out
Yeah.
into the 10-year forecast. But I'm also conscious that there's 5 new board members on the board.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe we ask the board members to do homework over the next couple months and review the strat plan and see if you've got issues with it. And if the consensus is there's no issues with it, then we just simply put it off, and perhaps we can deal with that in the next term of council. Because I don't know there's anything in there that's going to go stale dated.
Yep.
That I can think of anyway. It's a way to save some money.
And that's
And not just save money, but it's a considerable investment of boards and staff's time to do it, and that doesn't get captured. We spent a long time getting that strat plan done. I almost feel like we just finished it.
It feels
Joe
like that.
agrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that can absolutely happen in September, because again, the budget comes from approval, so at that point, we can still make adjustments.
Can you circulate the strat plan to everybody?
Absolutely.
And board members, have a look at it between now and September. Andrew was here when we did it, and I mean, I don't know if you agree with my view on this or not, but I think it was, and I think it was, we really spent a lot of time on it, didn't we? So, I mean, if you're comfortable with it, oh, Bill, too. I forgot you were here then, too, but if we're still comfortable with it, then that may be a way to save a few dollars and.
So I can send out the strat plan, but I can also dig up the documents that we use to create it. Our
Yeah.
environmental scan, the community consultation, and for that you have the full picture of how it came to be,
Yep.
which may assist as well.
So, sorry, folks, but you have homework. You have a little less than a month to do it, and could you make sure that's on the agenda specifically, that conversation?
Yep.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. Members of the board, Ray has made a motion that we receive the capital report, and that recommendation number 2 on the newspaper digitization proposal be approved. Is there a seconder to that motion? Thank you very much. Rod, all in favor? That's carried. Congratulations, Ray, and thank you for carrying the ball on that one for us. CEO update.
Yep, so IT is just gonna put the PowerPoint up.
As that's happening, this is just a temporary because C of A is upstairs, right?
Correct.
Like, we're going to be back in council chamber next.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I've lost a percentage of my eyesight because of the projector.
Yeah. Yeah, it's only because we ended up double booked because of the committee of adjustment upstairs. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to, we'll make sure this doesn't happen in the future. Again, it was just with the adjustment for August.
Bless you. Yeah. Yeah. Ken was saying, for those who can't hear it online, Ken Rigglesworth, who is our AV specialist tonight and always, has indicated that there is a wired system for the microphones, so we apologize. Actually, I'll take this moment. Anybody watching online, we apologize for the bad sound tonight. We have a very old microphone system here, and we do have a wired system that we would use if we have to use this room again.
So just a couple updates, just North Park, and I actually had a great conversation with Brent from Rec and Culture, that it turns out it's not, FCM is working closely with planning, absolutely, to address some permitting delays. It's not so much delays as it is our contractors are really eager. And so they're looking to do work that we don't have permits for yet. But we're hoping to get those permits by the end of the week, which will allow that to continue quickly, but there is some struggles back and forth with that.
Oddly enough, the permits come from the town. Anyway.
So the Parks, Recreation, and Library Facility Master Plan, which we already mentioned. There's nothing new with this. As we mentioned, they finished the public consultation. They've compiled all of that, and we'll be working on defining key master plan themes and guiding principles, and initiate a needs assessment. Will be in Q3 and Q4 of this year, with the goal of it coming to the board for approval and the council to approval in Q1 of 2024. So elder and residents, so OPL received almost $100,000 from the Government of Canada's Community Services Recovery Fund to support our elder and residents program. So we've been talking about this for a while, and we're getting closer with this. We're hoping that this will definitely be in place for 2024, and we're very, very excited about the plans that we have in place, and we're very excited about the funding that we received. So OPL, along with our Halton Public Library partners, Burlington, Milton, and Halton Hills, participated in Halton's first Pride Parade on Sunday. Was very well attended. There was over 1,000 people lining the street. There was about 26 groups that participated. We all marched together with our bubble guns. A lot of our staff brought their kids, and as you can see, our sign says, "Everyone is welcome at the library." And we're looking forward to using that sign in next year's Pride Parade. Next slide, because I'm not sure if it's me or you.
Will that parade always be in Milton, or are they going to circulate?
My understanding is that it's supposed to circulate between the municipalities. Milton was just the first one. So Friends of the Library book sale starts tomorrow, always a favorite event in the community. If you want to see people lined up through our children's, stop by tomorrow, because I was up there last time we did it, and they were lined all the way through our children's department, waiting to get in. So it's always a fan favorites for the library, and we're running them much more frequently. We're running them 4 times a year. So the next one is actually in November. Yep. So just some accessibility updates to our website. We're excited to, well, our app and then our self-checkouts. We're excited to announce that our app now seamlessly manages multiple accounts. So if you're a parent and you have children with cards, it makes your life so much easier. We do know that a lot of families only have one card just to make it simpler, but sometimes kids want their own card. So now they're able to swipe through the different cards when they're at the checkout, which will be a very much welcome feature. Has definitely been in demand. And our self-checkouts have now been equipped with text-to-speak and now play audio statements in order to assist people in moving through the different practices with that. So we're very excited with those updates. And then Culture Days. Culture Days are September 22nd to October 15th. We are proudly one of the most significant contributors to the town of Oakville's programs for this event. And we do have a large number of events that are taking place during it. One thing that's not listed here that I did put in the report is the official opening of the art project at Glen Abbey that is actually being installed this week. Our children's area is closed all week while the walls get painted and the vinyl gets installed. I've seen some initial drawings of, or concepts of what it's going to look like. And it's going to look like what I imagine the inside of a child's brain looks like. So it should be very exciting. So for those of you who don't know, it was a community project. So we asked families to come in and draw pictures. And then the artist took those pictures and then created another work of art. So it's all kinds of children's drawings of their happy place and what the library means to them up on the wall. So I'm very excited to have that up and for have people to see it and for kids to come in and be able to see their drawings up on the wall and really feel like it's theirs.
I think you should definitely use that marketing point about it looking like the inside of a child's brain.
Yeah.
You'll get a lot of parents trying to understand their children's brains, so that would be
It's yeah.
good marketing tag.
So we are launching a new virtual author series. We're partnering with the Library Speakers Consortium, which hosts speakers events virtually. So it allows libraries access to really high-end authors to do speaker talks. So it's free for anybody with an OPL library card, and any member of the Library Speaker Consortium libraries can join. So there's Cassandra Clare coming up, Robert Jones. So we're very excited to see this pick up because we as a single library would struggle to reach this level of author and also the frequency in which these happen. So you will see those promoted up. And then finally, just our pollinator garden. We are having a dedication ceremony for it on Wednesday of next week. The board is invited if you are available. Stephen Paquette, one of our Indigenous elders, is going to do a blessing, and the Stevens family will be in attendance, and everybody is welcome to attend. And I'm pleased to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Meredith?
I just thank you for that report. Lots of exciting stuff on the go. Just one thing I want to point out that I just noticed on the slide and in the CEO's report. Under the Culture Days, under the adult offering, you reference Terrence Young as the MP. He's actually the former MP, or current MP is Anita Anand.
Okay, I will fix that. Thank you.
He was both. He was MPP and then MP. He was both. Was he both? He was both. Yep. I was his chief of staff when he was provincial. Anyway, other questions for Tara? What's the date of the Stevens dedication, the garden dedication again?
So that is next Wednesday. It is August 30th at 11 a.m.
11 a.m.,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Okay, Andrew.
Yeah, it's, under Culture Days, it mentions tea, sommelier tea with Tracy. I thought we were doing tea with Tara.
She is more of a tea expert than I am.
Oh, okay. Isn't there typo?
Yeah, no. I don't know if I'll actually be at that one, but I love tea, so it's highly likely.
There we go. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Further questions? Can I get a motion to receive the report, please? How about you, Andrew? Thank you. Seconded by Bill. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, members of the board, we are done our discussion items. We do have one confidential discussion item we have to go in public session or closed session for. So I'll look for a motion to go in closed session for the purpose of dealing with personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Could I have that motion, please? Ray and Meredith, thank you. All in favor? Okay, we are going to closed session. Members of the public who may be watching us on streaming, if you can actually hear us, I would like to let you know that we are going into a session closed to the public. The stream will remain active. I'm sure you'll be learning lots about glass blowing during that time, but there will be very little coming out of the meeting. So if you want to find something else to watch, potentially the American election debates, please feel free. And we do appreciate your time and attention and watching your library board at work. So with that, I will declare this meeting to be recessed until, let's go to 8:30, and then we'll reconvene in closed session. Andrew? No, it was already moved, and it was approved. I'm just saying, so we're recessed to 8:30, and we'll reconvene in closed session. Once again, thank you to members of the public who are watching us, and we will hope you will join us again next month in September, or if you want to stay and watch us adjourn, you're welcome to do that too. Okay, members of the board, we are back in public session, and I am looking for a motion to receive the information that was presented to us in closed session. Thank you, Celso, and thank you, Meredith. Avis, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Members of the board, I take you to item number 9, which is new business. Is there any new business to come before the board today? I am not seeing any, so we'll get past that. I will announce that the next meeting of this board will be on Thursday, September 21st, in the council chambers, hopefully, at 7 p.m., at which time, amongst other things, we'll be dealing with budget recommendations. So look forward to seeing you then. To members of the public, thank you very much for sticking around. If you did, I will apologize to you that you did not get to see the glass blowing video. Apparently, that's only in the council chamber. But we certainly let you see that glass blowing video next time. With that, I'll look for an adjournment at this, a motion to adjourn, please. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Rod. All in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for your time and attention, and we will see you in September.